Hey there, welcome over here to my kitchen today. It is the start to a new week, so that calls for a new My Family's Meals type of video. I tried to be a little bit more creative and fun with the meals this past week, so I really hope you enjoy them. They were all delicious in my opinion, but anyways, I hope your week is off to a great start and let's go get to cooking. We're gonna get kicked off today by making these Crunchwraps. They're kind of like a fun twist on burritos and tacos, plus they're really simple to throw together. So in my pan right here, I have a pound of some ground beef. I'm going to cook it completely through. Once it is cooked through, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of some taco seasoning, along with 1/4 cup of some water, and I'm just going to stir this all together to combine. Now we're going to assemble our Crunchwraps. I was not joking when I said these are easy to throw together. So onto my large burrito-sized tortilla, I added a layer of some refried beans. On top of that, the ground beef mixture that we made up, a tostada. The tostada is going to add a ton of nice crunch, and then some sour cream on top of that. You could kind of add whatever toppings you like. For example, my husband doesn't care for sour cream, so I didn't add sour cream on his. But anyways, I also added some iceberg lettuce, cherry tomatoes, cheese, and then I did cut a small circle out of another tortilla to place on top, and that's going to help seal it. So you see me just folding the edges in. Now over to my pan, I'm going to spray it with some oil spray. You could use any type of oil you like. This is just going to help crisp up the Crunchwrap and seal the seam. So once the oil was hot, I just added the Crunchwrap down and I cooked it on each side for about 30 seconds. Here is the finished product. I'm just going to cut it in half and show you all the yumminess inside. My family absolutely loves these Crunchwraps. I served mine with some salsa, some more iceberg lettuce, guacamole, sour cream, and some lime. These are 10 out of 10, such an easy dinner that I love making. This pesto tortellini is one of those things where my sister always asks me to make it when she's over. So to get this one started, I poured a tablespoon of olive oil in this pan, then added my cubed pound of chicken breast with a little bit of salt, and then 1/4 cup of these sun-dried tomatoes. You're gonna cook this chicken completely through at this point. Now that my chicken is all cooked up, I'm just going to remove it to a separate plate, set the plate aside, cover it with some aluminum foil to keep it warm. So now we're going to cook our asparagus. In my same pan, I added an additional tablespoon of some olive oil with my pound of trimmed asparagus, an additional 1/4 cup of sun-dried tomatoes, and 1/4 cup of water. You're going to cook this for about 5 to 10 minutes until the asparagus is nice and tender. While I do have our asparagus cooking up, I'm going to take this time and boil my 9 ounces of cheese tortellini. Now that I have my asparagus to the tenderness that I like it to be, I added back in my chicken that I cooked up previously with 1/3 cup of some basil pesto. You could add more or less pesto in, just depending on your preference. Also, if you want to add more chicken in because you have a larger amount of people you're feeding, go ahead and cook up more chicken. This recipe is very, very easy to kind of make your own. I added in 8 ounces of cherry tomatoes that I sliced in half. With my cooked up tortellini, I gave it a good stir, then it's ready to serve. Here is my bowl of food. I just sprinkled some Parmesan cheese on top. This has amazing flavor, and if you're a pesto fan, I think you'd love it. Beef and broccoli probably has to be one of my all-time favorite foods. It's just so good. So now that's what we're going to be whipping up. I have almost 1.5 pounds of some flat iron steak right here, or you could use flank steak for this recipe. I'm just going to be cutting it against the grain. You do want to make sure you cut it against the grain so it is nice and tender in the end. Once you're through cutting up your steak, you're going to work on a little sauce. So to this large bowl, I just added a tablespoon of some cornstarch with a tablespoon of oyster sauce, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and about a tablespoon of some water. You're going to whisk this little mixture together. Add your steak into the sauce and stir everything around until your steak is pretty evenly coated. Now we're going to work on the main sauce. This is the sauce that's going to go in at the very end of this recipe and make this beef and broccoli extraordinarily good. So to this small bowl, I added in 1/4 cup of low sodium soy sauce, tablespoon of brown sugar, tablespoon of oyster sauce, 6 cloves of some minced garlic, a tablespoon of fresh ginger. I buy my ginger in this little tube and it makes it so easy for me to use so I don't have to peel my own ginger. 2 teaspoons of cornstarch and 1/2 cup of some beef broth. Just whisk this mixture together. Over to my large pot, or you could use a pan for this recipe, I have 2 tablespoons of hot canola oil in there. And you see me adding the beef in. I didn't add all of the beef in at one time. I actually did this in 3 different batches. So once I cooked this batch of beef, I added another batch in and then so forth. I just did that to ensure that the meat cooks properly and a little bit more even. This beef only cooks for about 3 to 5 minutes on medium-high heat. Once it was cooked, I removed it to a separate plate. Now that I have all of my steak completely cooked, I'm just going to be adding my 3 cups of fresh broccoli florets into my pan with the steak that we just cooked up. And then you're also going to be adding the sauce that we made earlier in. Give this a really good stir, then you're going to bring it up to a simmer and let this simmer covered for about 5 to 7 minutes or until you have the broccoli to the tenderness that you like it to be. Here's my plate of food. I served my beef and broccoli over some white rice and sprinkled some sesame seeds on top. To be completely honest with you, the first time I ever made this recipe, I was super intimidated by it, but it is so simple to throw together and it's absolutely delicious. Now we're making this mushroom, chicken, spinach packed lasagna. To begin, I'm going to be dicing up 1 white onion and thinly slicing 8 ounces of mushrooms. To my saucepan with about 2 tablespoons of some hot olive oil in it, I added my mushrooms and onions. Next, you're going to add about 1 tablespoon of some minced garlic. For the seasonings, I'm adding a teaspoon of dried basil and oregano, and just about a pinch of some crushed red pepper flakes. I didn't add a ton of crushed red pepper, but if you want it to have a little bit more of a kick, some more spice, go ahead and add some more red pepper in. I also added a pinch of some salt. You're going to let this cook together for about 5 to 8 minutes. Stir it pretty frequently. Now that the liquid from the mushrooms has evaporated and my veggies are softened, you're going to add 2 cups of some baby spinach in and 2 cups of shredded chicken. I just boiled my chicken up in the Instant Pot and then shredded it from there. You're going to stir this all around and let this spinach wilt down. After I added the veggie and chicken mixture into a separate bowl, set that bowl to the side, we're going to begin to work on the sauce now. So into the same saucepan I was using, I just added 2.5 cups of some chicken broth with 1.5 cups of some whole milk. Next, you're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of some nutmeg and just a pinch of salt. You're going to stir this around and bring it up to a simmer. Now that our sauce is up to a slow simmer, I'm going to slowly add in 1/4 cup of some all-purpose flour. This is really going to thicken this sauce up. You do want to make sure you add the flour in slowly, just to make sure that you don't have any clumps in the end. I continued to whisk the sauce for about 5 to 10 minutes until it started to thicken up. So now that it is starting to get thicker, I added my 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese in. I'm going to let the cheese melt down and then your sauce is finished. Assembling this lasagna is very simple. I have a 2-quart baking dish right here. I poured some sauce down on the bottom so the noodles don't stick, about a cup of sauce I'd say. And then I added some oven-ready lasagna noodles, or you could use just normal lasagna noodles, whatever your preference is. Some of the chicken and veggie mixture, and then on each layer I added about 3/4 cup of some mozzarella cheese. There's a total of 3 layers. Cover with some aluminum foil and bake in the oven on 375 degrees for 25 minutes, and then uncover it and bake it for an additional 15 minutes. Here's the finished product. My husband said this was one of his favorite lasagnas of all time. This just had some really great flavor. I served this with some steamed peas. I had all the right intentions on making a salad to go on the side on that night, but I was too tired when it came down to it. I haven't made salmon in such a long time, it feels, so now we're going to be making some salmon. I have 3 salmon fillets right here. I'm just going to sprinkle them with plenty of some garlic salt and some pepper, or you could use Old Bay seasoning if you have some of that on hand. I just didn't have any of that on hand though. To my saucepan, I'm going to drizzle it with about 3 tablespoons of some olive oil. Then I'm going to add my salmon fillets. It's kind of funny, but one of my salmon fillets didn't have skin on the back, but the other 2 did. I just wanted to let you know. But I just cooked these on each side for about 5 to 6 minutes. I only flipped them once. I love making salmon like this because it is so simple to throw together. I served it with steamed peas, tartar sauce, and some of this suddenly salad. I like making this suddenly salad when I don't feel like making a larger side dish. And Brinley was overly excited about the salmon because that's one of her favorite foods. I need to show you this mixed berry cobbler recipe. My mom made it when I was growing up, and now I make it all the time for my little family. So to my 8x8 baking dish, I sprayed it with plenty of some nonstick spray, and now I'm adding in 3 cups of these frozen mixed berries. On top of those frozen berries, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of some of this lemon juice, just kind of spread out. You're also going to add a tablespoon of some sugar on top of that, and then you're going to set this to the side. In this medium-sized bowl, I'm adding a cup of flour with a 1/2 teaspoon of some baking powder and a pinch of salt. You're going to mix this together and then set this bowl to the side. In this last separate bowl, you're going to add 3/4 cup of some packed brown sugar, a 1/2 cup of softened butter, and about a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm mixing it together with my electric mixer, or you could easily whisk it together or use a spoon. You'll want to add the brown sugar and butter mixture into the flour mixture, and I always beat it together for about 30 seconds with my electric mixer, and then I actually end up kind of mixing it together in the end with my hand. That way it kind of turns into a crumble. Now add all of the crumble on top of the berries. As you see, I'm adding it in bigger pieces. I just like it better like that in the end. I also want to let you know, if you want to add pecans to the top, you could definitely do that. I just didn't have any pecans on hand. This bakes in a preheated oven to 375 degrees for about 30 to 40 minutes, or until the top is golden brown. Of course, I had to serve my huge piece of berry crumble with some vanilla ice cream because you can't have crumble without ice cream. This recipe is so good. I definitely recommend it. And that is a wrap of this video today. I hope you enjoyed it and found a meal that you might be able to make yourself. It was actually really sunny this past week here in Utah, so we were super thankful for that. But anyways, I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.